There's even an organization called Palatine. If you've got someone, a loved one that's an alcoholic. The important thing is, you can't do this alone if you have a problem. You need help. You need to talk to people. There's people that you can talk to. But if you have the problem, the only way to do it is alone. You have to make the decision yourself and then get the help. I told you earlier that you don't want to kill those brain cells because as you get old and fat like I am, you want all the brain cells you can get. Well, there are 7 truths that I learned during this time. It took me 5 years to learn them. I could say the words, I could read the books, but I come up with these truths, and it took me 5 years to learn them. Parents are enablers. Your parents love you. In fact, they love you so much that they will not only allow you to use drugs, they will buy the drugs for you. You believe that? It's true. Your parents will allow you to use drugs, and they will buy the drugs for you. And it happens just like this. You go, Dad, hey, John and I are going to go to the movies. You got $10? And I think to myself, you know, John's a good kid. That's the kind of kid that my son needs to hang out with. Yeah, I got $10. You want to the movies with John? Yeah. In fact, hey, why don't you go to McDonald's or something afterwards? Don't you want something to eat during the movie? Pop or something? Here, take 20. And you walk right out of the house, and you know good and well, I got $20 to buy what I need. And Dad and Mom are sitting there happy. Hey, maybe he's turning the corner. He's looking for clean friends. He's going to the movies instead of going to a party. And trust me, when I say party, everybody knows what that means, right? It means, you know, drug party. Hey, he's going to the movies, and you're sitting there as Mom and Dad, and you're smiling, you're happy, and you're having a good evening, and you just give him $20 to go spend on drugs. I cannot fix this. I'm a dad. I like to work on cars, and I like to work on my house and build things. So I just knew I could fix this problem. It was impossible for me to fix this problem. Only one person, when you get to that deep, you can fix it. That's yourself. My addict is a liar. Pay attention here. You know how you can tell? This is very important. You know how you can tell when an addict is lying? Any ideas?
They smile.
Part of it.
There is.
Their lips are moving. That is how you can tell when an addict is lying. Because the truth is, if an addict says, Mom, I love you, that might be the truth, but the truth actually is, Mom, I love drugs too, and I love drugs more than you, but that's how you can tell when an addict's lying. My addict is a criminal. I told you about that. He's been in jail way too many times. He's had those chrome bracelets on. You know what those are, don't you? It's hard. I'm going to tell you what. We had him arrested in our house. We had him arrested in our house. He was taken out of our house in handcuffs. I'm the one that called 911. And that's where you'll get to. And you'll think of jail as protective custody because he's safer in jail than he is at home. And you're not doing him any favor. There was one time my son sat in the Johnson County Detention Center. You know how bail works? You know how bond works? Anybody? You know, if you get a $500 bond to get sprung out of jail, or you know, call it bail or whatever you're going to call it, you got to pay. Well, if you get a $500 bond, if you call a bail bondsman, basically you pay him 10% they vouch for the guy, they get sprung out of jail. So if you got a $500 bond, it costs you $50. And you don't see it at 50 anymore, okay, it's gone. It got to the point, my son spent 11 days, Johnson County Detention Center, because we wouldn't pay a $50 bond, $50 bail. Because we knew he was safer there and he was on the street. $50 is all it took to get him out of jail. We wouldn't get him out of jail. That was for his own good. Others don't want him around. I told you he had 2 sisters. One sister never left his side. One sister said, I can't have him in my life. I'm married, I have a house, I have a baby. I can't have that in my life. Neither one of them was right, neither one was wrong. It just is. Now that he's clean, the sisters, they all get together, they talk, they go together to the house and everything else. But while he was using, it's okay for someone to put a drug addict out of your life. Life will not be the same. Your parents right now think of you as 5 years old. Does anybody think they treat you like you're 5 years old? Okay, but that's just the flaw of parents. They think of 5 years old. When my son was 5 years old, he thought he was Michelangelo of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He would wear an orange bandana around his head, and he had weapons, and he ran around the house with those weapons fighting the bad guys. And when I looked at him, I saw Michelangelo, even when he was 20 years old. Now Michelangelo is lost inside of him someplace. And some people, Michelangelo will come back. But some people, Michelangelo will never come back. And that's just the way it is. And finally, I had to accept that. Homelessness may be the path he chooses. We threw him out of our house several times. He was homeless. My wife works downtown, and when you go downtown, you see people living under bridges. And you see people standing on corners asking for a buck. You know, and all this kind of stuff, and you hear about the homeless. Many of those people are addicts, alcoholics, or they have mental illness. Not all of them. You know, the economy accounts for some things, but a lot of them have those problems. It doesn't do anybody any good for me to allow my son to come back and live in the house if he's still living that lifestyle. We threw him out. He lived in my garden shed for 2 weeks, slept next on the floor next to my lawnmower. Didn't know he was in there. During the day, he'd come out, and while we were at work, he had it fixed up where he could break in the house. We didn't know it. He'd eat and shower and stuff like that, and then he'd be out of the house before we got home. And he was living in my shed in the backyard. Whenever I talked about first coming and talking to you guys and other classes, I have a blog because I got to the point that I couldn't process all this myself. I started writing about it on the internet. And when I made the decision to start talking to people, I put it on my blog. I said, hey, is there anybody got anything that you want me to say specifically to all of these students, all these young adults? And a mother in Connecticut, she sent me an email with this picture attached. And she said, I want you to show him a picture of my son. She said, I got called to the hospital. And I went into the hospital and I went into the emergency room. You know, the curtains and stuff in the emergency room, how it's set up. And she said, I opened that curtain and that's what I saw. She says, I thought that he was going to die. And why did I pull up my phone and I took a picture of him? Because I was afraid that this would be the very last picture I ever had of him alive. He'd overdosed. My son overdosed a few times.